Coach, the last time we talked about teams having to make adjustments on the fly with injuries. Now you're facing a team, a well-established team in Pitt that's going to have to make that change.
Yeah, unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game, and you have to kind of fight through them. They lose a great scorer off the bench for them, and just like everybody else, different guys are going to have to step up because he gave them a good lift and he's played well for them. It's unfortunate, anytime that happens to a young player that's starting to come into his own. And the one thing is they have a great program. They don't have a great team, they have a great program. And they have an established program. And although season by season each team is a little different, they've done a great job of keeping those standards in terms of being tough, being aggressive, being a great defensive team, really executing well on offense. And that's why they're 15-1 and a top 25 team in the country and 3-0 in our league.
I guess 20 minutes is a lot to fill too, and I imagine that's where some of the freshmen will come in for them.
Yeah, you'll have to ask Jamie that. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm worried about Georgia Tech right now, to be honest with you, and just keep trying to evolve as with our team.
What did it mean to get the first win in conference play Saturday over Notre Dame?
Well, I mean, it was as I said, it wasn't just a great ACC game. It was a great college basketball game. The environment, the atmosphere, the crowd, the play, the intensity level, the back and forth. I just thought it was a well-played game. 34 assists in the game between two teams. If you would have told me that offensively, when we played Notre Dame, that we would have as many assists as they would, with the way they move the ball and pass the ball, I would say that we would have a pretty good offensive game, and that's exactly what we did. And we were able to make some runs, and they were able to make some runs. And I think it's important that we keep that in perspective, because that's the way it is. Sometimes we talk about having a 10-point lead or 11-point lead, and then coming back, them getting back in the game. We forget we made the run first. You know what I mean? And so we did some good things too. And when you play good teams, good teams are going to rise up, and you need to learn to finish those things out. And I thought we did a pretty good job of that.
Coach, when you took the job here, you stressed you wanted to bring back the tradition. You wanted to bring back that feeling. Did you feel like that was part of the Georgia Tech tradition? What happened here Saturday?
Yeah, you could feel that excitement and energy in the locker room before the game. The crowd was tremendous, and it's just a different feeling. And we hadn't been at home in over a month, and the thing is, you want to establish yourself at home. Part of being building a great program is having a great home court advantage, and I thought that was evident on Saturday. I thought it was evident in the Illinois game, and probably our two best home games. I don't think that's a coincidence, and I always say it, and you've heard me say it. We have a major part in that. There's a little bit of blind faith that you hope that everybody has, but you also have to perform well. And the most important thing for us at this time, and I said it after the game, is when the people left that game, they knew that Georgia Tech played and gave every ounce they had for those 40 minutes, and I think we did that.
You feel like that effort will be there tomorrow night too?
That's what you have to start doing is sustaining that and doing that game in and game out. And that doesn't mean there aren't some peaks and valleys within games, but over a 40-minute stretch. And I thought we had some, maybe some performance issues at Duke, but I don't think there was ever any effort issues or any, I want to make sure that, when people watch us play, they know that this game's important and putting on that jersey is important. And I think our guys have done that.
Talk about, another top 25 team. It seems like each night you guys are getting the best of the best in the country.
Well, that's what this league's all about. And you look at programs, and we talked about Notre Dame, and we talked about now Pittsburgh. Those are great programs. And then you look at the individual, pieces in there. I talked to Marcus George's Hunt, and night in and night out, every guy he's going against is an NBA player. But that's across the board, and that's what this league is all about. And that's why guys come to play in this league, to play against the very best night in and night out. Not only individual players, not only teams, but the very best programs in the country.
Can you talk a little bit about their sophomore guard Robinson? What he brings to the table, and you know, how he runs the offense for them?
Well, he's a tremendous point guard because I think he's #1 in the country, definitely #1 in the ACC in assist to turnovers. Not flashy by any stretch, but just solid. Knows how to make plays, create shots for other people, doesn't turn it over. They are very efficient on offense. They get the shot they want almost every possession, and that all goes back to the point guard.
How do you feel you match up against their big guys on it? Is that a Holsey or a Miller, or do you switch off on him?
Well, you know, with Daniel and Cam, obviously they both play that 5 spot for us. And when they're in there together, then Cam slides over to the 4. You know, we have to do a great job in terms of interior defense, ball screen defense, and really make sure that we limit them to one shot.
Was there a particular 5 something that you had that you thought did best together?
I thought we got pretty good play from everybody. I thought we made a couple runs with Q in there, and then a couple runs when we had the 2 bigs in there, the traditional bigs. You know, I thought Corey gave us a big lift in those 12 minutes, and obviously Chris off the bench. You know, so I thought we got good play from a lot of different combinations.
Would you, ideally, would you be playing like kind of half and half, either 1 in, 4 out, and then half the other game with the
Well, if the
both?
thing, you know, if you just do the minute breakdown, and let's say Daniel plays 30 minutes a game,
Right.
and Cam plays 30 minutes a game, well, that's 60 minutes. There's another 20 out there for post play,
Right.
so that would go to the Q right now.
Right.
So that's half the game.
Yeah.
That's half the game. So that's where we've for the most part always had 2 big guys in there at one time. So you're talking about half your game is completely different than what you've done, and so that's kind of where we're at.
What do you make of the fact that Syracuse and Pitt are both 3-0, and Syracuse put a pretty good beating on North Carolina, and Carolina's 0-3, and Duke's 1-2. It's kind of an odd start.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's odd. I don't think anybody would have predicted that. But North Carolina's 0-3 and beat Michigan State at Michigan State, Louisville, and Kentucky. So I think it speaks volumes for our league.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois is 23rd in the country, and although they lost yesterday, you know, we beat them. And you just go down the list, and you can't always judge it, just like I always say, on one game.
Right.
You know, but I don't think anybody questioned that Pittsburgh and Syracuse would be really good this year.
Right.
They'd be 3-0 in the Big East if back in the, you know what I mean. So they're both really high quality teams, and they both have, you know, some veterans that are playing extremely well for them.
Patterson's scoring at a pretty good clip right now. I guess he's another guy you really
Man, do you want the whole Pitt scouting report today? He hasn't asked one question about Georgia Tech. Pitt.
talking about the opponent.
All right.
That's where he's from. So.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. He's as all around as good a player as maybe there is in the country. I don't know why no one else is talking about him. You know, in this where we're at, I didn't start watching film on them until about 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and I hadn't seen them play all year long. I couldn't, you know, I was amazed how good that kid is. Not that I hadn't heard of him, I'd never really seen him play, and I'm not sure who's having all around a better year than he is in the country. I'm talking in the country. You look at his stats and you look at what he's done in those games, the points he's producing, the assists, the rebounds. He's as good as anybody around.
Do you get Solomon back for this game?
Right now, it's still we're still on the medical side of things, trying to figure that out.
Has he had a history of migraines? Do you know, or is this?
When you say history, like many years, I think it.
Oh, has he had one before?
Yeah. This is not his first. This was not his first episode with that.
Brian, were you working with Chris Schott last week?
We've been getting a lot of extra shots up, and not just Chris, but a lot of guys. You know, you get into conference play, practices are much shorter, and so you work around a guy's schedule to get him some extra shooting in during the day, and so forth. You know, Chris has spent a lot of time, you know, to try to, you know, and wasn't one thing or this thing or whatever. It's just, you know, you got to just keep putting in the time and you know, I think the most important thing for him is he knows that the coaches and his teammates have a lot of confidence in him.
I think we would have described him, having watched him as a freshman, as a shooter, but through the first third of the season, anything but. And then I think I saw you, or Rod mentioned that you were literally sweating when you were interviewing with us last week. 'Cause
Yeah,
you were
well,
out there
that's,
working with him.
that's because
on
I'm
his
old
shot.
and out of shape.
So,
Well, you know, yeah, he came in this morning, and got extra shooting in with Corey, and you know, it's either me or Coach Dollar or Josh or Billy. You know, we spend, you know, rotate and spend different amount of time, and you know, he just caught me on the day that I had him, and you know, just some different things for him to, you know, concentrate on, because with that, you don't want him overthinking. You want him feeling confident, rising up and just releasing the ball and shooting it. And when he's open, he has the green light to shoot the ball. And you got to give him that freedom. And I think with that freedom, you know, his responsibility is to make sure that he's getting in a good number of shots every week, so he's staying in rhythm.
when you and the other coaches work with him, do you all pound home the same points? Do you review among yourselves? The
Yeah, you
coaches,
keep it
what you
simple
need to
when
work
it
on
comes
with
to
Chris,
shooting,
what you need to
though.
work on versus another player?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, you know, you want to keep it simple when it comes to the shooting, you know. And with Chris, the most important thing is that he gets good lift on his shot and he releases the ball. You know, you don't want him shooting on. Sometimes I don't want to get too technical. That's just the most. And when you shoot it, feel good about taking the shot. You know, and I think that was more of an issue than anything else.
How much of an advantage is it to have this home stretch going on right now for games rather than, you know, being on the road for a month?
Well, hopefully it works out to be a big advantage. You know, it's difficult playing on the road in this league. It's difficult playing on the road at any time. You know, so it to start with the 2 games on the road, to start the league, especially at, you know, places where those particular schools play extremely well at home. Maryland obviously is a very good team at home, and obviously so is Duke. So, you know, to get back home, and that only takes you to a certain point. You know, you can be at home and if you don't play well, you're not winning. There's no way in this league with 15 games left that we can not play well and win the game. It's impossible. And I think that goes for almost every team.